The day I finalized my divorce, I boarded a high-speed train to nowhere. With nothing but a suitcase and a broken heart, I never thought the deepest cut would come from my own child, when he chose the other woman over me. But now, they both regret it, and here's why. Hello everyone, welcome to Heart Tales, where we unravel the mysteries of love, one story at a time. Whether you're single, in a relationship, or just trying to figure it all out, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into an interesting story. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see love in a whole new light. So, grab a cozy blanket, maybe a cup of tea, and let's get started. Because here at Heart Tales, we believe every heart has a story worth telling. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and let's begin this journey together. The day I finalized my divorce, I boarded a high-speed train with nothing more than a phone, an ID card, and a bank card with a modest balance. That's all I had left after over a decade of marriage. Not the house, not the car, not even the child I had carried in my womb for 9 long months. They say divorce is like death, except you wake up to the corpse every day until one of you finally walks away. For me, that day had come. The train rumbled beneath me as I looked out the window, watching the city blur into streaks of grey and gold. It was the same city where I had built a life, raised a child, and lost myself piece by piece. My phone buzzed. It was the housekeeper. "Madam, you still have some things left in the house. Should I pack them for delivery?" I didn't even think. "Just throw them away," I said, my voice hollow. There was a pause on the other end. "The little master. He's crying. He keeps asking for you." I swallowed hard. My son. My own flesh and blood. I had carried him in my arms when he had nightmares. I'd kissed his forehead before every school test. I'd made every meal he ever loved. And now he was calling someone else Mommy. I clenched my jaw and answered, "He'll have a new mom soon. The one he's always been thinking about." The line was silent. The housekeeper didn't argue, because he knew I was right. My son had chosen her, the mistress. He really takes after his father, even in the women they love. There was a time when this realization would have shattered me. I used to cry at night, wondering, why couldn't it be me? Why wasn't I enough? But now I see clearly. If he doesn't love me, then so be it. Before the train rolled out of the station, I took a deep breath and whispered my final goodbye into the phone. Tell him not to worry. I'll never bother him again in this lifetime. I hung up, and with that, I was gone. Let me take you back to the beginning. Back to when I was still his wife. Still his everything. Back when love felt like a promise carved in stone. Before I realized it was just chalk on a rainy sidewalk. We met in college. He was charming, ambitious, and had that glint in his eye that made you believe in dreams. I fell hard and fast. We married 2 years after graduation. Had our son just a year later. At first, life was beautiful. Our home was filled with laughter, toys, burnt toast, and bedtime stories. I was a stay-at-home mom by choice. He said he'd take care of the finances, and I'd take care of the family. I thought it was a fair deal, until I realized I was trading my independence for invisibility. At first, it was small things, missed dinners, unanswered texts, late nights, at the office. Then came the silence, then the coldness, and finally, her. The first time I saw her was at a company event. She was pretty, young, smiled like she knew she had already won. She came up to me and said, "Oh, you must be his sister. You look too young to be his wife." I laughed politely. Inside, I wanted to scream. I asked him about her later. He said she was just an intern, but the lipstick stains on his collar and the smell of her perfume on his jacket said otherwise. Still, I stayed, for our son, for the vows, for the hope that maybe, just maybe, things could go back to how they used to be, but they didn't. They only got worse. Then came the day I walked into the living room and saw her sitting on the floor with my son. They were laughing. She was feeding him strawberries, his favorite. He looked so happy, so relaxed. And then he said it. He called her mommy. I froze. She didn't correct him. She didn't even look. Guilty. And my husband? He just shrugged and said, maybe it's easier for him this way. That night, I slept in the guest room. The next morning, I started packing. And a month later, the divorce papers were signed. He didn't fight it. Why would he? He had already replaced me. I left without taking a penny, more than the court required him to give. He offered me the house. I refused. I didn't want bricks that echoed with betrayal. I wanted peace. I moved back to my childhood town, into a tiny apartment above a bakery. No car, no maids, no silk bed sheets. But for the first time in years, I could breathe. I could sleep without hearing whispers behind closed doors. I could walk without wondering if I was being compared. I could live without apologizing for being myself. And that's when it began. The rebirth. When you lose everything, you realize what you truly have. For me, it was quiet. Not the empty, lonely kind of quiet, but a sacred kind. The kind that lets you hear your own voice again. The mornings were the hardest. I'd wake up expecting the pitter-patter of my son's feet, only to hear silence. The ache in my chest felt like a fresh bruise every day, but I got up every single morning, one step, one breath, one small choice at a time. I got a job at the local library, quiet work, humble pay, but oh, the smell of books, the calm of the pages. It felt like coming home. I started journaling again. At first, it was just raw, unfiltered pain, but slowly, stories started to emerge. Stories of women like me, women broken, but not beaten, women rediscovering themselves. I shared a few entries on a small blog I started anonymously. Didn't expect much, but a week later, my inbox was flooded. Thank you for this. You told my story. I thought I was the only one. Turns out, there were thousands of us, all quietly surviving, all quietly hoping to be seen. That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to just survive. I was going to build something from the ashes, from the pain. I took an online course in digital publishing, then another in marketing. It was scary. I hadn't studied in years. I doubted myself constantly. But every time I wanted to give up, I thought about that moment, my son, choosing another woman. And I told myself, if I can survive that, I can survive anything. Soon, I published an ebook, a collection of short reflections on motherhood, betrayal, and healing. It sold 50 copies in the first month. To me, it felt like 1,000,000. I kept writing, kept publishing, started a podcast, grew a small community, and suddenly, I wasn't just rebuilding, I was rising. I rented a new apartment, bigger, brighter, still modest, but it had space for sunlight and plants and dreams. I bought myself a second-hand car, nothing fancy, but it worked. And most importantly, I smiled again, a real smile, not the forced one I wore for years. People noticed. One of the bakery owners downstairs, a sweet, elderly woman, once said to me, "You have the kind of peace that people can feel, even when you don't speak." I thanked her and held back tears, because peace had cost me everything, but it was worth it. While I was building, things were falling apart back there. I didn't hear much, just whispers through the grapevine. The perfect family photo he tried to paint. It started cracking. The mistress, now his legal wife, had grown tired. Tired of pretending to be the devoted stepmother. Tired of cleaning up messes she once watched me handle effortlessly. The boy, my son, had started acting out tantrums, silent dinners, school troubles. He missed me. But pride is a funny thing. Neither he nor his father dared to reach out. Then one night, I got a message from an unknown number, just 2 words, "Mom, please." My heart stopped. I knew that handwriting. It was a photo, a note my son had scribbled and tucked into his homework folder. I stared at it for hours. Tears blurred the screen. I didn't reply, not because I didn't want to, but because I was scared. What if it was just guilt? What if I opened that door again and got crushed all over? I waited, but more messages followed, simple ones. A drawing of me and him. A voice note, "I miss you." A photo of his favorite storybook from when he was little. It broke me, because no matter how strong I'd become, some parts of a mother never stop aching. I sat on my balcony that night, the wind playing with my hair, the city lights twinkling below. Could I go back? Should I? I wasn't the same woman anymore. I wasn't broken. I wasn't invisible. I was whole now. But he, my son, was just a child caught in a storm he didn't cause. So, I did something I hadn't done in years. I prayed, not for strength, but for clarity. The next morning, I replied, "Let's meet at the community park. Saturday, 3 p.m, no fanfare, no drama, just a quiet opening of a door that had been shut." I didn't expect him to show. But at exactly 3 p.m, there he was, wearing the same red hoodie I'd gifted him years ago, the one with the tiny embroidered rocket on the sleeve. He looked up, our eyes met, and in that moment, time collapsed. He ran. I opened my arms, and he crashed into them with a sob that shook his little shoulders. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't mean it. I want to come home." I held him close and whispered into his hair, "You are my home." We sat on the bench for hours, just talking. He told me everything. How she ignored him. How she got mad when he mentioned me. How Dad was always busy, angry, distracted. And worst of all, how he thought it was his fault that I left because he wasn't good enough. I cried, right there in the open, where anyone could see, because no child should ever carry that kind of pain. I didn't take him back full time, not right away. There were courts, rules, custody papers, but I started seeing him on weekends, helping him with homework again, reading him bedtime stories again. One night after he fell asleep on my lap, he mumbled, "I feel safe again." I kissed his forehead, and I realized healing doesn't always look like a big dramatic moment. Sometimes it looks like quiet forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like a mother's lap and a child's breath. Life has a way of returning what you give to it. Not immediately, not with warning, but always with precision. While I was slowly rebuilding a new world, the old one they built together, the picture-perfect family they flaunted, was beginning to rot from the inside. It started quietly. Rumors, whispers, from mutual acquaintances. She's been seen with someone else. They argue at restaurants. She leaves the boy alone for hours. At first, I brushed it off. It wasn't my business anymore. Or so I thought. Then came the call. Not from him, but from her. The woman who had replaced me. She sounded exhausted, agitated. "Can you talk to your son? He's out of control. He's sulking, refusing to eat, always moody." My son, the one she snatched from my arms and turned against me. I almost laughed, but I kept my voice calm. He's not acting out, he's hurting. He's a child in pain. Her silence was sharp, and then she blurted, "This isn't what I signed up for." Ah, there it was. The truth, raw and loud. She didn't want to be a mother. She wanted the attention, the title, the luxury. She thought being the new wife would be all champagne brunches and designer handbags, but she hadn't counted on the responsibility or the consequences. My ex-husband tried to fix it, tried to play the role of the disciplinarian, but he had never truly learned how to be a father. He only knew how to write checks and post photos for validation. His patience wore thin. His temper grew short. One night, he slapped the table so hard, their son ran into a closet to hide. The housekeeper called me crying. He kept shouting your name. He just wanted his mother. I didn't know whether to scream or sob, but that was the day I knew. This wasn't sustainable. The child I had raised in love and security was now sleeping under a roof, poisoned by resentment and regret, and no one, not the courts, not the world, was going to stop me from saving him. I filed for full custody. They didn't fight me. Not really. The mistress had already packed a suitcase weeks ago. She was tired, bored, ready to move on to her next conquest. She left without a goodbye. No kisses, no hugs, just a slammed door and the smell of expensive perfume in her wake. And him, the man I once loved, he looked hollow. Years of lies and betrayal had drained the life from his eyes. He showed up for the court hearing, wearing a suit that no longer fit, and eyes that finally saw the damage he had caused. He didn't say a word, just nodded when the judge asked if he consented to the arrangement, and just like that, I walked out with my son, for good this time. The first night back, he clung to me like a little boy again. He didn't want a bedtime story. He wanted my story. So I told him everything, carefully, gently. I didn't villainize his father, but I didn't lie either. And when I was done, he said something I'll never forget. "Mom, I didn't know you were this strong." That moment, it healed parts of me that therapy never could, because I hadn't just won a court case. I'd reclaimed my dignity, my voice, my motherhood. As for him, he tried to come around in bits and pieces, sent gifts, left voicemails, wrote long apologetic messages. I was blind. I made mistakes. I want to fix things, but there are some bridges that shouldn't be rebuilt. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Because sometimes healing means not letting someone back in, not even to the porch, not even to the shadow of what once was. Months later, I heard he was admitted to the hospital. Panic attack, stress-induced complications. It didn't surprise me. He'd spent years chasing a fantasy, only to wake up in ruins. He asked to see me just once, and after much thought, I agreed. He looked thinner, older, smaller. The confident man I once knew was gone. "Why didn't you fight for me?" he asked. I smiled, softly, kindly. "Because you weren't worth the war I would have had to wage." He nodded slowly, and then he whispered, "She left me, you know. Said I wasn't exciting anymore." I tilted my head. "You never were. I just made you feel like you were." He laughed, bitter and broken. Then tears filled his eyes. I regret everything, and for the first time in years, I believed him. But it didn't change anything. Some stories don't need sequels. They just need a clean ending. I left that hospital room lighter. Not because I was happy to see him suffer, but because I had finally let go of the last chain tying me to my past. I wasn't a woman scorned anymore. I was a mother reclaimed, a writer reborn, a soul renewed. It's funny how peace doesn't come with a bang. No fireworks, no grand applause, just a soft morning light, a cup of tea, a quiet heart. It began slowly, this new life. A routine that didn't revolve around someone else's moods or expectations, just me and my son. He started smiling again. At first, small smiles, hesitant, then big, loud laughs that echoed down the hallway. He picked up his sketching again, drew every night before bed. Once he showed me a drawing of the two of us on a beach, hand in hand, under the sun. I call it home, he said, and just like that, I cried over crayons. I kept writing, only now the words weren't soaked in pain. They were laced with wisdom, softness, power. My blog grew, then the podcast, then a book deal. They called it a healing memoir for women rediscovering their worth. Funny how the thing that once broke me became the very thing that healed others. I received letters from strangers across the globe, women who were trapped, women who had left, women who were learning to breathe again, and every time I read their stories I realized my pain hadn't been pointless, it had purpose. And then there was him. No, not the ex. Someone new, unexpected. A single father who brought his daughter to the same art class as my son. Our boys became fast friends, and so did we. His name was Daniel. Quiet confidence, gentle hands, the kind of man who listens more than he speaks. He didn't try to fix me. He didn't interrupt my silences. He just showed up, with coffee, with patience, with kindness I wasn't used to. At first I resisted. I'd built walls so high, even I forgot what was behind them. Was scared, not of him, but of losing myself again. So I told him everything, my story, my scars, my fears. And instead of turning away, he held my hand and said, "You're not hard to love. You were just loving the wrong people." That was the first time in years I believed I might be lovable, just as I am. We didn't rush. No grand declarations, no whirlwind romance, just two people, healing, choosing, building something quiet and strong. He didn't try to replace my son's father, but he showed him what a real man looks like. Present, patient, protective. And my son, he started calling him Uncle Dan after a few months. Then one day, just Dad. I asked him why, and he said, "Because he stays." On my birthday, Daniel handed me a small wooden box. Inside, a key. "To the new house we're building," he said. "A home where laughter wouldn't be rationed. Where silence meant peace, not punishment. Where a woman like me could finally rest, not just survive." And I said yes, not just to the house, but to life, to love, to me. Looking back, it's hard to believe I once thought my story ended on that high-speed train. That the ID card, phone, and bank card with limited balance were all I had. I was wrong. I had something priceless. Myself, my strength, my dignity, my heart. And that heart, it's beating louder now than it ever did in that cold, loveless house I left behind. To the women listening, to the ones who feel forgotten, discarded, invisible, you are not broken. You are not a burden. You are a force. They may regret losing you. They may crumble under the weight of their choices. But you will rise. You will rebuild. And one day, you will look back at the version of you who boarded a train with nothing. And you will whisper, "Thank you for not giving up, because everything you thought you lost was just making room for everything you truly deserve." 10 years later, time has a way of softening even the deepest scars, of turning wounds into wisdom and memories into milestones. I now live in a home filled with laughter, music, and peace. The walls are warm, not from the paint, but from the love we poured into every corner. It's not a mansion, but it's everything we ever needed. The garden blooms in spring. Our dog snores in the afternoon sun. And I write from a sunroom with floor-to-ceiling windows that catch every golden ray. But the most beautiful part is watching him, my son. He's 18 now, taller than me. Eyes still soft, but full of something new. Strength. The kind of strength that's earned through survival, not comfort. He's graduating next month, top of his class, scholarships in his hand, art portfolio in the other. He got accepted into a design school overseas, and though my heart aches at the thought of him leaving, I'm proud. So proud, it brings tears to my eyes. Because I remember the boy who cried himself to sleep, the one who once asked if love always meant pain, the one who begged for a mother he'd been taught to forget. Now he stands before me, confident and kind, a man built from broken pieces, mended with truth, love, and second chances. Last night, we sat in the kitchen, late, just the two of us. I was baking. He was sketching on a napkin, as usual. And out of nowhere, he said, "Do you ever wish you'd fought harder to stay in that house back then?" I paused. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I wanted to say it right. I looked at him and smiled. No, baby. I didn't leave because I was weak. I left because I was finally strong enough to stop begging for scraps of love. He didn't say anything, just leaned forward and hugged me. Tight, like he used to when he was small. "Thank you," he whispered. And just like that, I knew I had done something right. As for the past, it's faded now, but the echoes still reach me sometimes. The Mistress. She remarried, moved abroad, no contact, no guilt, and honestly, that's fine. She gave me the gift of absence. She freed me, accidentally, for the life I was meant to live. And my ex-husband, well, he tried to reach out last Christmas. Sent a letter, a photo of him alone, grayer, softer. He wrote, "Sometimes I sit in silence and think about everything I ruined. I don't ask for forgiveness, just peace. And you know what? I hope he finds it. Not because he deserves it, but because I've found mine. And when you have peace, revenge stops tasting sweet." Today, as I pack my son's suitcase for college, I find a photo tucked in the side pocket. It's the two of us, years ago, on the beach. The same drawing he made when he was little. Now framed, colored in, and captioned. Beneath it, just one word, home. And I cry. Not because I'm sad, but because I finally understand. I didn't just survive. I rebuilt. I didn't just walk away. I walked towards something better. I created a legacy, not of pain, but of purpose. A story not of betrayal, but of becoming. So, to anyone listening, to the woman curled up in bed with silent tears on her cheeks, to the mother doubting her worth, to the soul convinced they've lost everything, you haven't, not even close. Your story isn't over. You are not disposable. You are not replaceable. You are the foundation of homes, of hearts, of healing. They may regret what they did to you, but you'll never regret choosing yourself. Not once, not ever, because the greatest revenge is no longer needing one. My name, it doesn't matter. My pain, it doesn't define me, but my peace is eternal. And if you remember nothing else from my story, let it be this. When they chose her over me, they thought they won. But in truth, that was the moment I was set free. And freedom looks beautiful on me. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought and share. with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, spread love.